So what's going on, guys? DIY Dan here again, and this is another episode of Backroads Arizona Mechanical. In this video, I'm going to go over how I installed some fuse blocks to run all my accessories. I also used a couple relays to power those fuse blocks. Now this setup came out very clean and I'm really happy with it. I've had it on there for about a year and I haven't had any issues. So I got most of the stuff from an automotive store in town, but you can get it off of Amazon as well. I'm going to show you what I got. Then we're going to do a wiring diagram to show you how I wired it in to make it a little easier to understand. And then I'm going to actually show you some pictures and videos of the install itself so you can check that out as well. So let's get to it. So I'm going to show you the two main components that I used. So this is the basic style of the relay that I used in mine. Now it is weatherproof, which is always a plus on an off-road vehicle. The other thing you want to look for is make sure it'll handle the amperage that you're looking to put through it. And then this is the style of fuse panel I bought. Now there's several options to this. This is just what I ended up getting because I actually got mine at a Napa, I believe. The thing I like about this one that I saw is it's got LED lights to tell you whether your fuses are burned out. Now I am using relays to power each one of these fuse blocks, and the reason I'm doing that is so I don't accidentally leave a light switch on and it kill my battery. So unless the key's on, these blocks are not going to have power. So in order to install these fuse blocks where I did, you're going to want to pull the upper glove box out. Now in order to do that, you have to pull a couple plastic clips. Quite a while ago when I got this razor, I bought this little kit on Amazon. It was like 12 bucks. It comes with the tool to pull these clips and with a bunch of extra clips. Now this is highly excessive as far as the amount, but for 12 bucks I didn't really care. You can also use a flathead screwdriver to pop these up if you need to. I used a flathead screwdriver for quite some time until I had a couple go missing, and then I needed to buy the clips, so I just got one that came with the tool. So using the tool or a screwdriver, you just need to get it under the top part of the clip and pry it up a little bit and the clip will come right out. So you'll notice in this video I was actually using a flathead screwdriver because I had not purchased the tool yet. It still worked. So we're going to pop the two clips that hold this glove box in place and then pull the glove box up and out. So there's basically nothing behind that glove box, so you have plenty of room in there. So what I did is I got actually a piece of PVC board. So you can get this PVC board at Lowe's or Home Depot. I ended up cutting it to the width of the bracket behind the glove box, drilled two holes and anchored it in with two screws. I did leave an air gap at the top in case I needed to run some wires through. Then using 4 more screws, I anchored the fuse boxes to the PVC board. One mistake I did make while anchoring these is I've got these ran in line with each other. I had to end up offsetting them so the wires would kind of offset and go between each other because I was kind of hurting for room. So I'm going to show you how I wired it in with a wiring diagram, and then I'm going to show you what I did on the razor itself. Alright guys, so right now this is the wiring diagram. This is just a lot easier to show you guys and explain it than trying to do it on the razor itself. So on the firewall of your razor, if it's a relatively new one, you should have a bus bar that has a battery supply, a ground, and a key on power. We're going to use, that's the 3 items we need to wire in a relay. Now if the relay is the same one that kind of I reference in this video, they're going to be labeled like this. You're going to have a 30, an 87, an 85, and an 86 on the relay. This is actually an 87A, but we're not going to use that for this application, so I didn't bother putting it on there. And we're going to have 2 relays. So off of our battery supply, we're going to come off and we're going to go through an inline fuse. You could also use a circuit breaker. Cool thing about a circuit breaker is they will automatically reset. I had these 2 inline fuses with some nice thick wire on them already, so that's what I ended up using. And I've got 40 amp fuses in each one of these. So we're going to go through that inline fuse and we're going to go to pull 30 on your relay. So we did that for both relays. Then off of the ground on the bus bar, we're going to go to either 85 or 86. On most relays it does not matter. I think I went ahead and used 86 for my ground. So we did that on both relays as well. Then off of our key on power, we ran that down to 85. And we did that on both relays as well. So how a relay works is 30 transfers to 87, but only when it's excited by a key on power and a ground. So we have our ground. When they turn the key on, we get power to 85. That triggers this relay and connects 30 to 87. So now, and I used two different colors of wire off of my relays, a blue and a red, and that way I know that my blue wire from this relay is powering this fuse block, and my red wire coming off of this relay powers this fuse block. That's just helpful for diagnosing. So I went through the firewall with my power supplies, and there's a pole on the fuse block to run that power to on each one. Now, I just put a couple references here to give you an idea how you can run stuff on this. So now you've got a bunch of spade connectors. Once you power that, you're powering the 6 individual fuses. And you can put different amperages obviously in here. That's kind of why I reference different colors as far as the fuses. And we can come off of our fuse. Now on mine, I kind of did all of my lighting off of one fuse and all of my miscellaneous stuff off of the other fuse block. So we're going to come off of one of the spades. We're going to come through. This is my backup lighting for reference, just an on-off rocker switch. We come down off of that, powering the lights, and then each one of these green just means that's going back to a ground, whether it's self-grounded or I usually ran a 2-wire and ran to an actual ground stud on the razor in another location. But irregardless, you need a power and a ground to activate the lights. Same thing, LED light bar here, and then like on mine I did a horn, so this is a momentary on-off rocker, and I came off of another one and activated the horn. So now I'm going to show you a couple benefits of running 2 separate fuse blocks ran by 2 different relays and fuses. So as an example, let's say you're out riding at night and this fuse panel is running your LED light bar, and all of a sudden your LED light bar shuts off. You might be able to have an accessory over here, like your backup lighting, that's not very critical. You can unplug this wire off of here, move it over to where your backup lighting was plugged in over here, and get you going, and get you back to camp until you have more time to diagnose it further. So that's the good thing about having 2 different fuse panels ran by 2 different relays and 2 individual fuses. So now we're going to go over it on the actual razor itself. This is on the firewall under the hood. So here's that bus bar that I talked about in the wiring diagram. That is your main battery power. This is your ground, and this is your key on power. I used the key on power to excite the 2 relays. I grounded the other part of the exciter to the ground, and I ran my main power to the relays, and each of these have a 40 amp fuse in them. Now once again, I had these inline fuses with the thick wires, so that's what I used, but this is where you would put the circuit breakers if you determined you wanted to go that route instead. I used to have the fuse panel mounted out here, and I only had 6 fuses. I've ran so many accessories on this, that's why I went ahead and moved the fuse panels to the inside and just ran the 2 relays out here. One other thing that I did on mine, and the reason I have so many fuses, is because I ran a fuse for each individual switch. So I've got a fuse for the light bar on the roof, I've got a fuse for the light bar in my bumper, I've got another fuse for the backup lighting, etc. Now the reason I did that is if I create a short and I blow a fuse, I only lose that one function. Versus if you're using one fuse to power multiple switches and multiple lights, if you create a short in any of those circuits, you're going to lose everything. So you'll notice the different color wires that I used for each fuse, if possible. And I already told you the reasoning on that. It makes it easier to track stuff down when you're back here trying to diagnose. You'll also notice that I left quite a bit of extra wire, and I know that doesn't look as pretty, but there is a benefit to that. Example, if I needed to switch one of the wires or fuses around to get me power to it in a pinch, I've got that extra length of wire to do that. I also do that for the wiring that goes to my switches as well, so if I have to pull a switch out, I've got plenty of slack in the wire to pull it out, so I'm not working with an inch of wire out the dash. All it takes is a couple zip ties to tie everything up behind the dash. Here's a good look at the 2 different colored wires that I have feeding the fuse blocks from the relays. So right here I'm just putting the glove box in so I can show you guys that it didn't bind up or anything or hit on anything as it's going in. So I'm going to make this kind of a series of videos as well, guys, because I did do a lot of added wiring, LED light bars, GPS, lighted whip, etc. And I'm going to have videos coming up on all those as well. Hope you guys enjoyed this video and it gave you some good information and some good ideas on how you can do your wiring as well. If so, hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. My channel is just full of DIYs to help you save some money. As always, guys, I try to give the most information in the least amount of time as possible so as to not to waste your time. Hope to see you next time. Have a good one. Later.